She fainted in front of everyone and found refuge in the millionaire's arms. What seemed like weakness revealed an unexpected connection. Hidden secrets began to surface, and nothing would ever be the same. Prepare yourself for a story of love, redemption, and courage. Subscribe to the channel, like and comment where you're watching from. The exhaustion came without warning. Emma felt the world spinning as her vision darkened in the corridors of the 47th floor. Her knees gave way, and before she hit the ground, firm arms caught her. A masculine scent invaded her senses, notes of sandalwood and bergamot that she would recognize anywhere. It belonged to Tyler Matthews, the CEO feared by everyone, including herself. "Breathe deeply," he ordered, his deep voice contrasting with the unexpected care of his hands. Emma tried to compose herself, but her body had finally decided to rebel after 36 hours without proper rest. "I'm fine. I just need," she murmured, unable to complete the sentence as consciousness completely escaped her. The last thing she registered was a whisper in her ear, words that seemed out of place coming from that man known for his calculated coldness. "I need you." Emma awakened, disoriented. The ceiling she was looking at wasn't from her apartment, nor from the communal office where she spent most of her days. It was high, with plaster details and soft lighting that didn't assault her sensitive eyes. She tried to sit up and noticed a heart monitor connected to her finger. "I don't recommend sudden movements," the voice came from the other side of the room. Tyler Matthews, the man who commanded a technology empire valued in billions, had his shirt sleeves rolled up, revealing strong forearms. His expensive tie lay abandoned on a leather armchair. "Where am I?" asked Emma, her dry mouth making speech difficult. "In my office. I called a doctor. Dehydration, extreme stress, and sleep deprivation," he replied, approaching with a glass of water. "Working until you faint? Is that dedication or madness?" Emma accepted the water, avoiding his inquisitive gaze. "There were impossible deadlines. Deadlines that I set," he completed, a shadow of guilt crossing his normally impassive face. "You're not working today, but the presentation for the investors, it's not negotiable." The authoritative tone was back. "My driver will take you home. You rest today." Emma tried to stand up again, more slowly this time. "Mr. Matthews, with all due respect, I can't—" "Tyler," he interrupted. "When someone faints in my arms, I think we can dispense with formalities." Something in the way he said this made Emma's heart race, and the heart monitor betrayed her, emitting faster beeps. Tyler raised an eyebrow, almost amused. "You said something," Emma ventured, adjusting herself on the Italian leather sofa that probably cost more than her annual rent. "Before I blacked out completely." Tyler looked away for a moment, a rare gesture for someone always so confident. "I say many things." Emma Carter hadn't reached the position of operations director at Matthews Technologies by chance. Daughter of teachers from rural Ohio, she carried with her the determination forged by those who always had to prove their worth. At 32, she possessed an impressive resume and a reputation as a problem solver. Her brown eyes, intense and analytical, rarely missed details. Her dark hair, normally pulled back in a severe bun, framed a face with delicate features that she made sure to keep serious in the corporate environment. Emma had built her career on 3 pillars: unshakable competence, unquestionable ethics, and the ability to anticipate problems. But behind the professional facade, Emma carried deep insecurities. The constant fear of not being enough pushed her to inhuman work schedules. Her personal life was practically non-existent. Her last relationship had ended when her boyfriend got tired of competing with spreadsheets and reports. What few knew was that Emma had a natural talent for systems and people. She saw patterns where others saw chaos, and this ability made her too valuable for Tyler Matthews. Theodore Tyler Matthews had built a technological empire from scratch. At 40, he was the typical self-made man celebrated in business magazines. Brilliant, ruthless, and notoriously difficult. His penetrating gaze, an almost metallic blue, seemed to read thoughts and find flaws with surgical precision. The press described him as the ice millionaire, a reference to his coldness in negotiations and business decisions. Few knew the man behind the legend. Son of Irish immigrants who lost everything in an economic crisis, Tyler had learned early that vulnerability was synonymous with weakness. His obsession with control manifested in everything, from the impeccable cut of his suits to the millimetric precision with which he conducted meetings. 3 characteristics defined Tyler Matthews: extraordinary intelligence, relentless perfectionism, and a chronic inability to trust others. What no one knew was that, behind the mask of self-confidence, there was a man who deeply feared the possibility of losing everything again, as his parents had lost. and this shadow accompanied him even at the height of success. 3 days after the fainting incident, Emma returned to the office. She had obeyed the medical orders, partially. She had rested, hydrated, but also used the time to organize ideas that had been fermenting in her mind for months. As she walked through the glass corridors of Matthews Technologies, she felt curious glances. The fainting episode and the supposed rescue by the CEO himself had fed the corporate gossip mill. "So Sleeping Beauty returns," commented David, financial director and occasional friend. "Interesting rumors are circulating about how the prince woke you up." Emma rolled her eyes. "No one woke me up. I was taken home and slept for 15 straight hours." 15 hours? "Is that a personal or historical record?" joked David, accompanying her to the meeting room. "Get ready. The man is especially tense today. I think he missed you." Emma ignored the provocation. They had scheduled a strategic meeting to discuss the new integrated management system, and she was determined to present her ideas. When she entered the room, Tyler was already there, absorbed in his tablet. He briefly raised his eyes, nodding in recognition. But without the usual comment about punctuality, Emma had arrived 10 minutes early. The meeting proceeded normally until it came time to discuss operational bottlenecks. Emma took a deep breath and spoke up. "I analyzed our workflows over the past 6 months," she began, opening her presentation. "I identified 5 critical points that are causing systematic delays and overloading specific teams." Tyler leaned slightly forward, interested. Emma presented her restructuring plan, simple, elegant, and efficient. She proposed eliminating redundancies, establishing clear approval protocols, and implementing a calendar that would avoid the traditional last-minute emergencies. When she finished, she expected the traditional barrage of questions and objections that Tyler usually fired. Instead, he remained silent for a few seconds, analyzing the projected charts. "Implement it," he said finally. A single word, but one that carried immense weight of approval. The other directors exchanged surprised looks. Tyler Matthews rarely approved proposals without extensive questioning. At the end of the meeting, when everyone was getting up to leave, Tyler discreetly called Emma. "A moment, please." When they were alone, he asked directly, "When do you plan to start implementation?" "Immediately," she replied. "I already have the first steps mapped out." Tyler nodded, thoughtful. "You developed this during your rest days, didn't you?" Emma hesitated. "Let's say I had time to organize ideas that were already in my head." An almost smile formed on his lips. "Your inability to truly relax is fascinating." He paused, looking at her with intensity. "Good to have you back, Emma." It was the first time he had used her first name. Emma's restructuring plan began to be implemented with surprising agility. The initial resistance, typical of any corporate change, was gradually being replaced by recognition of the effectiveness of the new measures. 2 weeks later, an opportunity arose to present the preliminary results to a group of potential international partners. Tyler insisted that Emma lead the presentation, an honor normally reserved for more senior executives. The meeting was going smoothly, until Bernard Castellini, one of the investors, interrupted Emma with a question loaded with condescension. "Miss Carter, your presentation is charming," he said with a little smile. "But I wonder what a professional so young really understands about global supply chains. Or are there other reasons for your presence at this table?" A tense silence settled in. Emma felt her face heat up but maintained her composure. Before Tyler could intervene, she responded firmly, "Mr. Castellini, I'm at this table because I'm the person who solves complex problems. I can detail every number in this presentation because I analyze them personally." She made a calculated pause. "If you'd like, I can review your own speech so it fits the professionalism this meeting requires." Again, silence. This time, denser. Tyler's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Apologize to Director Carter," he said in a tone that admitted no reply. "Or this meeting ends now." Castellini paled, realizing he had made a strategic error. He mumbled uncomfortable apologies. At the end of the day, Emma found Tyler on the corporate terrace, a space rarely used by employees. He was watching the illuminated city, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Thank you for the support today," she said, approaching. "But I could have handled that alone." Tyler didn't turn around. "I know, I saw how you responded before I intervened." He paused. "It wasn't to save you. It was to make clear that we don't tolerate that kind of behavior in my company." Emma observed his profile against the city lights. There was something different about him, a vulnerability that didn't match his public image. "Why did you choose me to lead the presentation today?" she finally asked. Tyler turned, facing her. "Because you're the best person for the job. Simple as that." It was a lie, and they both knew it. There was something more, unspoken, floating between them. The following: Weeks brought a new dynamic between Emma and Tyler. The previous formality gave way to a strange familiarity punctuated by moments of inexplicable tension, small. Accidents became almost a comic tradition. Emma spilled coffee on the report Tyler had just printed. He almost tripped over the projector cord she had left stretched. Both tried to grab the same document and their hands touched briefly, causing mutual and awkward recoil. "You're a walking danger," Tyler grumbled once, when Emma accidentally sent an important email to the wrong recipient. "And you're much worse without enough sleep," she retorted without thinking, observing his dark circles after a particularly stressful week. Instead of reprimanding her for insubordination, Tyler let slip a half smile, a rare expression that few in the company had ever witnessed. During an international video conference, when all the other executives had already left the room, Emma noticed Tyler discreetly massaging his neck. "Migraine?" she asked casually, organizing documents. He nodded, his eyes half closed against the bright light. Without saying a word, Emma dimmed the lights and placed a glass of water and a painkiller in front of him before quietly leaving. The next day, she found a small package on her desk, a pair of noise-canceling headphones, with a simple note, "For the noisy days, TM." It was the first personal gift she had received from him. The opportunity that would change everything came unexpectedly. An important client in Asia needed immediate attention. Problems with system implementation that could cost millions. "I need you to come with me to Singapore," Tyler announced, entering Emma's office without ceremony. "We leave tomorrow," she blinked, processing the information. "Tomorrow? That's sudden. Emergencies usually are." Tyler seemed tense. "We only need to stay 3 days. David will take care of everything here." Emma nodded, her mind already calculating what she would need to reorganize. "I'll be ready." The trip began with 16 hours on a plane. Even in first class, it was too much time for two people with a history of unresolved tension. Tyler worked obsessively in the first hours, while Emma alternated between reviewing documents and trying, unsuccessfully, to watch a movie. "Can't disconnect even at 35,000 feet?" asked Tyler, finally abandoning his laptop. "Look who's talking," she shot back with a half smile. "I thought you were trying to break some record for emails per minute." The formal barrier that normally existed in the office seemed to have stayed on the ground. They talked about the project, then about business strategies, and finally about more personal subjects, musical tastes, movies, places visited. Emma discovered, surprised, that Tyler had a prodigious memory for details and a dry humor that he rarely let show in the corporate environment. When they arrived at the hotel in Singapore, however, they faced an unexpected problem. "What do you mean only one room?" Tyler questioned at reception, his voice controlled but tense. The manager explained profusely about a system error and maximum occupancy due to an international conference. The only available room was the presidential suite. "We can look at other hotels," Emma suggested, already anticipating the discomfort of the situation. Tyler checked his watch. "We don't have time. Our meeting is in 3 hours, and we need to prepare." He turned to her. "The suite has 2 areas. I'll take the sofa." "Don't be ridiculous," Emma responded automatically. "I'll take the sofa. It's not negotiable," he said, in the tone he used to end bored discussions. Emma crossed her arms. "I accept, but no unnecessary heroics. Tomorrow we'll sort this out with hotel management." That night, after the tense meeting with the client, which ended better than expected, both returned exhausted to the suite. The initial formality gradually dissolved with fatigue and 2 glasses of wine from room service. Sitting on the balcony overlooking the illuminated city, Emma finally spoke about herself, not the efficient executive, but the woman behind the position. She told about her childhood in rural areas, her teacher parents who sacrificed everything to educate her, the constant fear of failing that accompanied her. "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be seen for what I deliver." "Not for what I appear to be," she confessed, looking at the city and not at him. "A young woman in a leadership position. People always assume there's something more." Tyler remained silent for a moment. "I hired you because I saw your work at Axis Systems. It was impressive how you reorganized their entire operation." He paused. "But I understand what you mean. This world isn't fair." It never was. It was the cue for him, in a rare moment of vulnerability, to talk about his past. The first investment that almost bankrupted him. The sleepless nights. The obsession with control he developed to never feel fragile again. "It's not coldness," he confessed, looking at Singapore's night sky. "It's fear of depending." Emma didn't respond. She just realized, for the first time, that behind the wall, there was a man with scars similar to hers, different in form, but equal in depth. When they returned to Brazil, something had subtly changed between them. It wasn't something that could be easily noticed by external eyes, but it was there, a new understanding, mutual trust that transcended corporate hierarchy. In meetings, Tyler began to discreetly seek Emma's opinion with his gaze before making important decisions.
She, in turn, felt more comfortable disagreeing with him when necessary, something few in the company dared to do. One afternoon,
after a particularly difficult meeting, Tyler appeared at Emma's office door with an unexpected proposal. "Do you have plans tonight?" Emma looked up from the report, surprised. "Excuse me? The Matthews Foundation is holding a charity gala. I need someone who really understands our social work to talk with potential donors." He seemed almost uncomfortable. "It would be useful to have you there." Emma hesitated. Was it a professional invitation or something more? The line between the two worlds was becoming dangerously thin. "What time should I be ready?" she finally asked. "My driver will pick you up at 8, he replied, an almost imperceptible relief in his voice. The charity gala was a dazzling event at one of the city's most exclusive hotels. Emma had chosen a simple but elegant petrol blue dress that contrasted perfectly with her dark hair now loose in soft waves. When Tyler saw her at her apartment door, there was a moment of hesitation, as if he were truly seeing her for the first time. Dressed in an impeccable tuxedo, he seemed even more imposing outside the corporate environment. "You look different," he said, the words coming out with unusual difficulty. "Different good or different bad?" she asked, trying to lighten the sudden tension. "Definitely good," he replied, offering his arm. "Shall we?" During the event, Emma observed a side of Tyler that few knew, the philanthropist genuinely committed to social causes. He spoke passionately about the foundation's educational projects, a facet completely distinct from the cold and calculating executive. At one point, while talking with a group of businessmen, Paul Morrison, an investor known for his predatory behavior, approached Emma with excessive familiarity. "So you're the new acquisition of Matthews Technologies," he commented, his eyes uncomfortably scanning her body. Tyler always had good taste for talents. Before Emma could respond, Tyler subtly positioned himself between them, not with possessiveness, but with protective presence. "Emma is with me in this negotiation and others," he said in a firm tone, "and she commands our operational directorate with an efficiency you well know." "Paul," the man backed away, perceiving the message between the lines. Later, on the hotel terrace, away from the music and conversations, Tyler finally addressed what seemed to hover between them for weeks. "You asked me, after you fainted, about something I said," he began, his hands resting on the railing. Emma felt her heart race. "Yes, that phrase." Tyler turned to face her. It wasn't about the company. They looked at each other for seconds that seemed to stretch indefinitely. Time seemed suspended, as if the world awaited a crucial decision. The kiss came without haste, not with the desperate urgency of cinematic romances, but with the firmness of a conscious choice and the delicacy of someone asking permission without words. When they pulled apart, Emma surprised them both with a light comment. "Do we negotiate the raise later?" Tyler laughed softly, the tension of the last months finally dissolving. "This is a terrible conflict of interest." "I agree," she replied seriously.
we need to establish rules. Back to routine, they established an informal agreement with 3 main clauses. Absolute transparency at work.
No favoritism. Emma would continue to be evaluated exclusively by her results, and personal life without spectacles. Discretion as a principle. The days gained a new texture. Tyler found pretexts to personally deliver documents to Emma when they could have been sent digitally. She appeared in meetings with sharp arguments and precise data, but now their gazes occasionally met in moments of silent complicity. In the elevator, a discreet brush of hands, followed by a step back when the doors opened. In the corridors, professional conversations punctuated by small gestures that only they understood. The first night together at Tyler's apartment was a revelation of contrasts. The controlling and methodical man tried to prepare an elaborate dinner and failed spectacularly, provoking laughter when the fire alarm went off. "This has never happened before," he assured. "Opening windows to dissipate the smoke." "I imagine not," Emma replied, trying to control her laughter. "Do you usually not burn simple pasta?" They ended up ordering Japanese food and eating on the living room floor like teenagers, while discussing books and philosophizing about the future of technology. "Your dessert," he ventured, immediately blushing at his own cliché. Emma arched an eyebrow, amused by his discomfort. "Only if you wash the dishes," she bargained, practical as always. Intimacy was built in layers, physical, intellectual, emotional. They discovered that their work rhythms complemented each other, as did their silences. Tyler appreciated the direct way Emma challenged his ideas. She valued how he truly listened to her, without interrupting. In meetings, they maintained a strictly professional posture. Emma refused invitations to events when she judged her presence would be confused with favoritism. Tyler, in turn, learned something he had never practiced before, asking, not just ordering. "We need the numbers revised for tomorrow," he said once in a crisis meeting. Emma, exhausted after an intense week, responded firmly, "We can deliver by noon." "Not before." Tyler hesitated, looked at the other directors, then at her. "Please," he added, surprising everyone, "if possible." This small moment marked a subtle transformation in the company's culture. The word "please" began to appear more frequently in internal communications. The discreet relationship advanced, but not without obstacles. The biggest was internal. For Tyler, giving up control was a painful process. For Emma, accepting vulnerability without feeling diminished was equally challenging. They had their first big argument when Tyler, without consulting Emma, reorganized her schedule to include an important international meeting. "You can't simply decide this for me," she argued, closing his office door so the conversation remained private. "It was an opportunity we couldn't miss," Tyler defended himself. "I thought you'd be happy. It's not about the opportunity, but the principle. You promised to treat me like any other director." Tyler hesitated, realizing his mistake. "You're right. It was instinctive. Control instinct," Emma pointed out. "We need to work on this." To her surprise, instead of closing off, Tyler nodded. "Yes, we do. I'm sorry." It was the first time she heard him apologize so directly. The relationship gradually transformed them. She learned to delegate more, allowing herself moments of real rest.
He discovered that trusting wasn't necessarily an unacceptable risk. During a particularly tense meeting with board,
When a strategic project was harshly criticized, Tyler did something unprecedented. "I agree with the criticisms. I was wrong in the initial assessment," he publicly admitted. The amazement was general. Tyler Matthews admitting an error? The internal company buzz elevated the event to corporate legend status. For Emma, however, that moment meant much more than corridor gossip. It was concrete evidence of personal growth. 8 months after the first kiss on the terrace, their lives had found a comfortable rhythm of complementarity. They worked with the same intensity as before, but now respecting healthier boundaries. The company prospered like never before, partly thanks to the new dynamic established by the duo. On a common night, after a productive day, Tyler asked Emma to meet him on the corporate terrace at the end of business hours. When she arrived, she found the space transformed. Small decorative lights, a table set for two, and the spectacular view of the city beginning to light up at dusk. "What is this?" she asked, genuinely surprised. Their celebrations were usually discreet, away from corporate eyes. "An experiment," Tyler replied, serving 2 glasses of champagne. "I'm trying something new, spontaneity." Emma laughed. "You planned this spontaneity how far in advance?" 3 weeks, he admitted, smiling. "But the intention is what counts." They dined quietly, talking about future projects and shared memories. When dessert was served, Tyler seemed suddenly tense. "I spent years believing that feeling weakens," he began, his voice lower than usual. That vulnerability was synonymous with weakness. Emma watched him carefully, sensing that something important was about to happen. "You messed up that thesis," he continued. "And thank God messed up my routine too." He paused, breathing deeply. "If you'll let me, I want to spend my life proving that vulnerability isn't defeat." He stood up, and to Emma's complete amazement, knelt beside her, taking a small box from his pocket. The diamond and sapphire ring sparkled under the terrace lights. "Emma Carter, will you accept me as partner, accomplice, and eternal student of humanity?" Unexpected tears blurred Emma's vision. She who rarely cried felt strangely free to express emotion. "Yes," she replied, laughing and crying simultaneously, but with one condition: no turning romance into an excuse for missing deadlines. Tyler smiled, visibly relieved. "Deal." The kiss that sealed the commitment was witnessed only by the city lights below. At the height of the crisis, they discovered that the greatest challenge wasn't in business, but in the heart. When everything seemed to crumble, vulnerability transformed into strength. A love put to the test, between difficult choices and silent promises. If you're enjoying the story, leave your like and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. The wedding took place on a spring afternoon, 6 months after the proposal. Contrary to expectations from those who knew Tyler's fortune, the ceremony was intimate and elegant, not an ostentatious spectacle, but a genuine celebration. The ballroom of a boutique hotel was transformed with soft lighting filtering through large windows, discreet flowers in neutral tones, and an atmosphere that invited embrace rather than reverence. Emma had chosen an ivory silk dress, simple in lines but sophisticated in details, perfectly reflecting her personality. When Tyler saw her walking toward him, something happened that his associates would have difficulty believing. The Iceman felt his eyes moisten. He, who had built a career controlling every reaction, allowed himself that moment of authentic emotion. The vows were short and honest, without unnecessary elaborations, a reflection of the pact they already lived. Tyler promised to love without trying to control. Emma, to love without trying to fix. Simple words, but loaded with self-knowledge. "I promise to remember that your competence doesn't need my constant approval," he said, provoking smiles among the few guests who knew his micromanaging tendency. "And I promise to respect your silences, as long as you promise to break them when it really matters," she responded, referring to his difficulty expressing feelings. The kiss that sealed the union was contained and deep, like the relationship they had built, without artificiality, but full of truth. At the small reception that followed, David, now promoted to CFO, raised an unexpectedly touching toast. To the two workaholics who learned that efficiency without humanity is just a well-organized spreadsheet, but without purpose. Among laughter and applause, Tyler hugged Emma by the waist and whispered in her ear, "He has no idea how right he is." For their honeymoon, they chose destinations that reflected their complementary contrasts. First, the intensity of the Italian cliffs on the Amalfi Coast, where the sea crashed against rocks in dramatic spectacle. Then, the turquoise-blue serenity of the Maldives, with bungalows over transparent water. In Italy, they walked through narrow alleys of Positano, tasted artisanal limoncello in small taverns, and allowed themselves the simple luxury of having no schedule. Emma discovered that Tyler possessed surprising knowledge about Renaissance architecture. He, in turn, marveled at her ease in winning the sympathy of local merchants in improvised Italian. One morning, they woke early and went to a small beach semi-hidden among rock formations. Tyler, always so controlled, let himself be convinced to try surfing. His first attempt ended in a spectacular fall, followed by a rare, spontaneous laugh. "Are you recording this?" he asked, feigning indignation when he saw Emma filming with her phone. "Evidence that the great Tyler Matthews is human," she replied, laughing until her stomach hurt. "This is worth more than all the company stocks." In the Maldives, the pace slowed even more. Long breakfasts on the deck over crystal-clear water, diving to observe marine life, simple dinners by candlelight on the sand. They created a new temporary routine, waking without alarms, swimming at dawn, reading books they had postponed for months, talking without time pressure. "I never thought I could go 3 days without checking emails," Tyler confessed one night, while watching stars from a wide hammock. "I'm impressed you survived," Emma joked, snuggling against him. "Maybe there's hope for you. For us," he corrected, intertwining his fingers with hers. "We're in the same recovery boat." That night, as the gentle breeze swayed the bungalow over the water, they made love slowly, as if they had all the time in the world. Because, for the first time, they really did. The return to routine brought curious looks and inevitable whispers through the corridors of Matthews Technologies. The discreet wedding had happened during an extended holiday, and many employees only found out through the formal announcement sent by the communications department. Emma noticed the immediate reaction. Some treated her with new deference, not for her position, but for the surname she now carried. Others showed veiled resentment, as if her success was now explained by the relationship, not competence. "They'll get over it," David assured during lunch. "But you need to be prepared. There will be people who try to discredit everything you've achieved." "I'm used to it," she replied with serenity. "The difference is that now I have absolute certainty of my value." To demonstrate that nothing fundamental had changed, the couple maintained the same professional dynamic. Formal meetings, objective evaluations, technical disagreements when necessary. But there were also small changes. Quick kisses in empty corridors, occasional lunches at the nearby restaurant, a discreet wedding ring that sparkled when Emma gestured during presentations. A young intern dropped a pen when he saw them holding hands before the elevator doors closed. The moment became an inside joke between them. "I think we traumatized the kid," Tyler commented. "He's just shocked to discover you have emotions," Emma replied, adjusting his tie. "It's understandable." The most effective response to speculation came through work, consistent results, innovative projects, transparent leadership. Emma now dedicated part of her time to training new female hires, creating a mentorship program that quickly gained market recognition. Tyler, in turn, surprised everyone with a new leadership approach. He learned to give contextualized feedback, to listen without interrupting, to publicly acknowledge when he was wrong, a skill that previously seemed impossible to him. During a particularly tense meeting about a crucial project delay, he did something unprecedented. "The responsibility is mine," he declared to the astonished board. "I set unrealistic deadlines and ignored warnings from the technical team. We have a contingency plan that Director Carter will present now." The amazement was palpable. For those who knew the old Tyler, authoritarian and infallible, that admission was practically a corporate revolution. As months passed, the relationship between personal and professional life found its balance. There were business trips that could now be shared, goals achieved without the cost of sleepless nights, vacations planned in advance and respected as non-negotiable commitments. The house, previously a transit space between commitments, transformed into a home. Tyler's apartment, now theirs, gained Emma's touches. Strategically scattered books, a small garden on the balcony, discreetly framed photographs. The habitual silence was replaced by sounds of life, music during breakfast, spontaneous laughter, conversations interrupted by kisses. But not everything was roses. Emma still occasionally dropped objects at inopportune moments, a characteristic that once deeply irritated Tyler, but now provoked more patience than frustration. He, in turn, still fought against the impulse to solve everything alone, although now he could ask for help, with difficulty. But he asked. One Saturday morning, while Emma prepared coffee, Tyler received an urgent call about a problem with an international client. Automatically, he took total control of the situation, defining strategies and delegating tasks by phone. When he hung up, he noticed Emma watching him with a neutral expression. "What?" he asked, defensive. "Nothing," she replied, placing a cup of coffee in front of him. "I just noticed you didn't even consider consulting me, even though it's my area." Tyler opened his mouth to respond, closed it again, and then sighed. "Old habits. Very old," she agreed, without hostility. "It's okay, I understand the impulse. But next time I'll remember I'm not alone in this," he completed, gently pulling her by the hand. "I promise." When fatigue threatened to return to previous levels, especially during new product launches, Emma had learned to recognize the signs and choose strategic breaks. Tyler, in turn, developed a previously unthinkable ability, perceiving exhaustion in others before it reached critical point. "Go home," he said one night, finding Emma still working at 10. "The report can wait until tomorrow. Just 30 more minutes," she negotiated. 15, Tyler counter-argued. "And we leave together." On difficult nights, when stress threatened to contaminate the relationship, they remembered the initial pact: absolute transparency at work, evaluation by merit, not feelings. Personal life protected as treasure. On bright days, they celebrated another agreement, unspoken but equally important, valuing the process, not just the result. 2 years after the wedding, new challenges and joys further transformed the couple's dynamic. The news of Emma's pregnancy came amid international expansion of the company, a coincidence that would test the true change in priorities. "I'm pregnant," she announced one night, after a quiet dinner at home. Tyler froze for an instant, the wine glass halfway to his lips. Then a slow smile formed on his face, not his usual contained smile, but something luminous and new. "Are you sure?" he asked, placing the glass on the table with excessive care. 3 tests and a medical consultation, Emma confirmed. Absolute certainty. The hug that followed was different from all previous ones. There was protection, vulnerability, and a kind of frightened joy that neither had experienced before. The pregnancy coincided with the biggest business opportunity in the company's history, an international merger that would double its market value. The old Tyler would have demanded total dedication from everyone, including Emma, regardless of circumstances. The new Tyler reorganized the entire structure so she could reduce her workload without harm to the project. "I don't want special treatment," Emma insisted, when he presented the plan. "It's not special, it's strategic," Tyler argued. "We need you focused on areas where you're irreplaceable. The rest we can redistribute." The argument was rational enough for her to accept, and sensitive enough to demonstrate how much he had changed. The arrival of their first daughter, Sophie, completely reconfigured their lives. The house gained new sounds: baby cries, lullabies, discovery laughter. The minimalist and organized apartment gave space to a certain controlled chaos. Toys on the floor, bottles in the sink, little clothes in various stages of folding. Tyler, who always hated unpredictability, discovered an infinite capacity for adaptation when it came to his daughter. Emma, accustomed to solving everything alone, learned to delegate not only at work, but also in caring for Sophie. 2 years later, Luke was born, completing the family. Sleepless nights returned temporarily, but now for very different reasons from the old ones. Ironically, I'm more rested now with 2 small children than I was back when I fainted in the corridor, Emma commented one morning, while nursing Luke and supervising Sophie playing on the carpet. And I'm more fulfilled doing video conference meetings with a child on my lap than when I closed million-dollar deals alone, Tyler confessed, adjusting his daughter who insisted on appearing on camera during an important call on a special night. To commemorate 10 years since the fainting episode, Emma and Tyler dined on their home terrace, the same terrace where he had proposed. "I have a question," she said, while watching the illuminated city. "If I had said no back then, when you said you needed me, what would have happened?" Tyler considered the question for a few moments, swirling the wine in his glass. "I would have moved on," he replied honestly. "That's what I always did, but I would have been poorer inside." He paused reflectively. "I discovered that needing isn't depending. It's choosing to be close." Emma rested her head on his shoulder. "I also chose to stay close. Not for who you were back then, but for who you decided to become since then." On the table among the candles, there was a gift she had just given, an album with photographs of the important moments of their joint journey. The wedding, the birth of the children, trips, professional achievements, common domestic scenes that had become precious. "Look at us," Tyler commented, slowly turning the pages. "Who would have thought that fainting would bring us this far?" "I think I needed to literally collapse so we could build something solid," she joked. On their wedding anniversary, instead of an elaborate party, they chose a simple and perfect night, homemade food, which both had learned to prepare reasonably well. Favorite music, phones turned off. Tyler still occasionally burned the food. Emma continued saving the situation with improvisation and humor. They laughed at memories of the turbulent beginning, the insecurities that seemed so definitive at the time, the small disasters that almost ruined everything. They celebrated not only what they had achieved, but mainly what they had deconstructed, the armor, the fears, the excessive defenses. Before sleeping, with the children finally settled after stories and lullabies, Tyler whispered in Emma's ear, without fear of repeating himself, "I need you." The phrase, which once sounded like an involuntary confession of weakness, was now a conscious declaration of shared strength. It was no longer a cry for help or reluctant admission, but daily choice, renewed commitment, love expressed in its simplest and truest form. Years passed, bringing new challenges and transformations. Matthew's technologies continued growing, but under a different philosophy, more human, more balanced, although no less ambitious. Emma eventually took over the presidency of one of the company's most innovative divisions, while Tyler concentrated on strategic projects and expanding the charitable foundation. Sophie, now a teenager, demonstrated her mother's determination combined with her father's strategic vision. Luke, more introspective, revealed an unexpected artistic talent that both supported enthusiastically. The family had found its own rhythm, not perfect but authentic. Occasionally, when corporate world pressure threatened to unbalance the scale, both recognized the warning signs they had learned to identify. Emma still fought against the tendency to take on excessive responsibilities. Tyler still needed to consciously remember to share decisions, but now they knew how to ask for help from each other, from professionals when necessary, from friends and family. One common morning, in the elevator that took them to the office, the same elevator that once witnessed the fainting that changed everything, Emma discreetly touched Tyler's hand. In the brushed steel mirror, they exchanged a knowing look, silently acknowledging the journey traveled. The doors opened to another day. They breathed deeply and continued together, not out of obligation or sacrifice, nor dependency or heroism, but because over the years they had learned that "I need you" wasn't an anchor that held them down, but a good wind that propelled them both in the same direction. Work remained demanding. The world continued, accelerated, but now they knew how to navigate with a different compass, not just that of ambition and external success, but also of balance and shared fulfillment. And in this new rhythm, they discovered that strength and vulnerability weren't opposites, but complementary faces of the same valuable coin called life. After so many misunderstandings, they learned that needing someone isn't weakness, but courage. Love, once hidden, became the force that guided them. A journey of overcoming, surrender, and second chances. Subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and tell us in the comments if you believe in loves that resist time.